All right, so let's get to this gem dropping session, shall we? I think we shall. Let me drop this gem on your melon. Open your mind, let your conscience be free. You're now rolling with your man, LouieTeeNetwork. Let me open you up. Get you thinking a little bit. So, Tanya Snyder, recently on the Adam Schefter Podcast. And on the Adam Schefter Podcast, they talked about a myriad of topics, including her new involvement and role in the Washington football team. She's been very vocal since receiving the title of co-CEO of the Washington football team. She's been a lot more out front than in past years. And her voice is starting to get louder and louder. And I think a lot of that is a byproduct of the NFL telling Daniel Snyder he has to stay away, which really doesn't mean much. I think his wife is now turning into a mouthpiece for him. But that being said, I don't want to dismiss her involvement. I don't want to dismiss that these may be her individual thoughts and how she feels about some things. But nonetheless, a few months ago, Jason Wright, the team president, said, and I shouldn't say a few months ago, it was last month. It's like August 17th, 18th, 19th, somewhere in that general vicinity, like the middle of August, I remember. He said, because they put out a subsequent video to go along with this statement. They've been doing this, kind of chronicling the journey of rebranding the name and all of that stuff. And they had a video out, and essentially in that video, they had a bunch of names they put up on the Jumbotron, you know, the scoreboard in the background, and asked some of the season ticket holders what they thought of you know, that logo and that name or whatever the case may be. And so it got people to thinking maybe that's what it's down to. And so he had to go back and clarify, hey, look, we haven't selected a name yet, but at the end of the episode, they said that there were 3 names pretty much. And then, you know, they beeped it out. He said, what about this name? Beep. And what about this? Beep. And what about this? Beep. And Ron Rivera's like, oh, I really like that one. And so that was like the ending of the video. So, you know, everybody was thinking, oh, what are those 3 names? Yada, yada, yada. He's like, well, we're not actually down to just 3. Like, those were 3 of 8 names that we've whittled the list down to. And I've been contending all along, they got a name already. They're just trying to make the fan base feel like they're a part of the process of rebranding this thing, and they want to reel some of these fans that they may have lost back in, and they want to try to bring in a new generation of fans and make them feel like they're a part of this process. Like, this is a team that they helped build, so to speak, in terms of, you know, the new logo and the new name and, you know, all of that stuff. So I said it's great strategy on the part of Jason Wright. I'm just not falling for the banana in the tailpipe. But he's not after people like me. I'm not going anywhere. You don't have to sell me. I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. Whether we're the Muskrats or the Red Wolves or the Defenders, I'm not going anywhere. So you don't have to sell it to me. It's the guy that gave up 2-3 years ago when it seemed hopeless, and he vowed that he wasn't coming back until, you know, he saw, you know, definite change. That's the person they're selling this to, or the 17-year-old or the 18-year-old or the 22-year-old that never has seen this organization win a day in their life, and they're thinking about finding a new team like the Baltimore Ravens up 95, and that's the person they're going after, that they want to reel in, not me. So I could care less. But I've contended that they've already had a name this whole time. But I've talked to some people, one in particular, that has some, I don't want to say inside information, but they know somebody that knows somebody. It's one of those situations that is actually in the room, and he's like, hey man, I'm not going to lie to you. We kind of F this thing up. And I'm not quite sure that the name we wanted to get is the name that they're going to ultimately get, because there's some stumbling blocks there. And no, we don't actually have the name quite yet. Like, I'm hearing that. It's a little bit unnerving, so to speak. Oh, really? So now I'm starting to kind of walk back my position like, yeah, they got a name, because I trust this person is telling me this stuff. And I don't know if the sources that he's getting it from are trustworthy, but he also gave me some information that I was able to kind of fish around and find out that was true, which was Curtis Samuel. His groin really isn't the problem. It's just conditioning at this point. The groin is fine. So I think this person is telling the truth. At the end of the day, they may not have a name yet. It's what I'm trying to tell you. And so, on Adam Schefter's podcast, Tanya Snyder pretty much spilled the beans, because Jason Wright never told us what those 8 names that they had it whittled down to were. He just said, hey, we down to 8. Not just 3, but 8. We have 3 names in particular that we're looking at, but we still got other names that we're considering at this point. And Adam Schefter threw out the 8 names. He must have gotten it from a source, and she confirmed it. Now, after she confirmed it, she said that had already been confirmed, right? Not exactly. It's almost like Hertz car rental. Not exactly. Not exactly. So, kind of probably didn't mean to do that. Maybe she did. Maybe this is a marketing ploy to get people more excited and conjure up more attention for the name. Maybe she purposefully did it, played the, oh, I didn't know role, but whatever the case may be, the end result is the 8 names are out there that they're reportedly considering. Those 8 names go as follows: Red Hogs, Defenders, Armada, Presidents, Brigade, Commanders, Red Wolves, and Washington Football Team. So those are the 8 names that they've whittled the list down to reportedly. That I can't confirm nor deny this, by the way, but those are supposedly the 8 names they've whittled it down to. Now, remember, I've told you all along that I think it's going to be something regal, something presidential, something more politically correct. Ron Rivera has already said it's going to be something that makes the DMV proud, all of Virginia, Maryland, and DC proud. And I'm like, what the hell could that be? So some of these names make sense. Armada was a name that they've been playing around with a little bit. I don't like it. I don't even know what it means. It probably has something to do with military, if I had to guess. But I have no idea what it means. But that's the name they've been playing around with. I've heard that from multiple sources. But Red Hogs is something that I know they were playing around with, and I've seen mock-ups of logos and things of that nature. Defenders, we've heard that one. We've heard that one going back to when the name was being threatened the first time around, or the first 87 times around. Defenders has always been a name that's been hovering around. I believe was the what's it called team? What's the Vince McMahon league? Shit, I can't remember. Was that the DC Defenders? Were they the Defenders? DC Defenders, I believe. So that name has a little bit of history already, I believe. Presidents, that's garbage. That's as corny as it gets. Brigade, Commanders, Red Wolves, and Washington Football Team. What do you guys think of those 8 names? Red Hogs, Defenders, Armada, Presidents, Brigade, Commanders, Red Wolves, Washington Football Team. I've already told you, I really don't give a shit. If they picked any of those names, honestly, if I had to rank them 1 to 8, I think Red Wolves would be first. I'm not the biggest fan of Red Hogs, but okay, whatever. I think it'd be Red Wolves 1. Probably the Defenders 2. maybe Washington Football Team 3. I really don't want it to be Washington Football Team, so I probably would slide Red Hogs 3, Commanders 4, Brigade 5, Red Wolves 6, Armada 7, and Presidents 8 is probably how I would slide it. But again, if they picked any one of these 8 names, I'd be like, okay, whatever, cool. Even the Presidents, which I can't stand, I'd be like, okay, whatever. I'm going to call them Washington if they're the Presidents. Anyway, okay. So they're not going to choose Presidents. I think it'll be one of the other names. I really think it's going to be Red Wolves, to be honest with you. I think they're trying to dot all their I's, cross all their T's. They want it to be Red Wolves. That's the name that gained the most traction. They're trying to reel in the younger generation and demographic. That's the way they're going to do it, is with Red Wolves. Again, the name's not for me. So I think that's what they ultimately are going to do. But it'll be interesting to see how they handle this situation, because I'm hearing that they really don't actually have the name, and that they've kind of messed this thing up in terms of getting all of the trademarks and patents that they needed. They really allowed a lot of time to pass and a lot of people to have the opportunity to squat on a lot of these names. And so they don't want to succumb to pressure from someone that's squatting on one of these names. They don't want to reward a squatter. That's been their move this entire time. But I don't know. I don't know. I'd like to think that they've got most of the things they need for these 8 names. And they've probably got another 20 to 25 names. That's what I'm hearing. Is they've got at least 30 names that they've registered trademarks for. But we're going to see. Hard to say what ultimately comes of this situation. I just know that we'll get some resolution reportedly at the beginning of 2022. After this season is done, we get into next year and we start getting ready and preparing for the new league year in March. We should be getting resolution. I'm hoping after the Super Bowl, sometime in late February, this thing comes to a head. We get a new name and we move forward. We get the backlash, we get the people laughing and pointing, we get that stuff out of the way. We'll probably deal with that for about a year, maybe a year and a half, and then you move on. So I hope that process gets started in February, where they can just unveil the name. We take all of the shots that we're going to take. People are going to point, they're going to laugh. We're going to have to deal with it. You're going to have a sector of the fan base that can't stand the name, a sector of the fan base that wanted to just remain Washington Football Team, and then you're going to have the sector of the fan base that is just perfectly content with the new name and just wants to move forward. So we'll see what happens, man. You can't please everybody. I hope they understand that and they make a decision accordingly, and I think that decision ultimately is going to be Red Wolves. I really do, because they realize they can't please everybody, but they can please the majority, and that's what they should be aiming to do. And at this point, if you don't want Red Wolves to be the name, you're not loud enough. You're not a part of the majority, you're a part of the minority. And if there are more people that don't want the name to be Red Wolves, then you have to band together like the people that do want it to be Red Wolves have, because they've already created a massive faction and they've spoken loud and clear. The organization has clearly heard them, and I think they are the leaders in the clubhouse right now. So I think ultimately they want this team name to be Red Wolves, but Ron has already said, I think that name's pretty cool. So it's not like they don't think the name is one that they can stomach. So we'll see. And Ron, we've already said this, Ron has he has input, and I think his approval somewhat matters, which is really, really fascinating for an organization that has been run by the Snyders for over 2 decades. A guy that literally just got here a year ago, having say-so in what this team might be called for the next 100 years is almost asinine when you think about it, but that's how far this organization has fallen, and that's how much they respect Ron as well. And they're hoping that he'll be a part of this organization and maybe build himself into a Joe Gibbs-like figure within the organization and hopefully win and have the success that Joe Jackson Gibbs had in Washington. as well. So,
Louie.